Hey everybody, how you doing? This is about to be a really fun video out at the range today with Heavy Metal, and I've got this brand new. Well, it's not brand new, but it's brand new to me. You guys that watch the show would have seen me pick this up from the pawn shop the other day. And we got a bunch of people with no mufflers ripping it down the back roads today. Anyways, I picked this up from the pawn shop the other day down there at Tolliver's, and to be quite honest, I didn't even know exactly what it was. But looking it up, this is a Weatherby Vanguard High Country. The High Country is the one that has this, they do this custom painting there at Weatherby, but this is the Weatherby Vanguard High Country 26-inch barrel. Look at how long that barrel is. And reason why I picked it up was it's in 6.5 by 300. Some of y'all are probably saying, ooh, cool. And some of y'all are probably saying, I don't know what in the devil that is. Well, let me show you a box there. There's a Weatherby factory box, 6.5 by 300. To the best of my knowledge, this is the fastest 6.5 that exists. And the speeds on this, so typical 6.5 Creedmoor is 2,600 feet per second and some change, maybe 2,700 depending on the loading. So here's another one. This is a Sirocco box, 130 grain. These are going 4,400 feet per second. Surely not. It's kind of smudged and I'm kind of guessing. Let me find another box. Here's 127 grain. Yeah, it's got to be 3,400. Here's another factory box, 6.5 by 300 Weatherby. Loaded with 127 grain Barnes LRX. Muzzle velocity is 3,400 feet per second. So 6.5 projectiles, but what is that? 700 to 800 feet per second faster than a 6.5 Creedmoor. Now, I can't hit anything without an optic on top. So I grabbed this baby, which a viewer actually sent me this a while back, and I couldn't put it on anything because I was never having 34 millimeter rings. Well, I got some 34 millimeter rings. This is an Arken EP4. I don't even think they make this anymore, but I do have the EP5 on my 300 Win Mag, and I took a deer this past season at 430 yards with it. So you guys that watched the show here recently know I'm a recent big fan of Arken, and talking to them, they've give me and you a discount, 25% off everything on their website with the code HootyHoo, just like this, but without the dashes. So, real quick, let me slap this optic on there, and then we're gonna get sighted in and sling some bow lights with it. All right, so I got that scope on there. The EP4, super crazy clear glass. If you haven't taken a look at Arken, check them out. Got everything torqued up. I double checked the rail. Torqued all these, torqued these. The rings I got are some Arken rings on there as well. Now, we got to get this thing sighted in. I got the laser bore sighter on the end. I'll show you how I use that in a second. But here's where things are going to get a little bit sideways with a bunch of y'all. And let me tell you why. So, when I got this thing, like I said, I got it at the pawn shop. Came with reloading dies, which I'm going to do in some videos here coming soon for this. And then it came with bunch of boxes of, you know, seemingly factory ammo, right? Well, what does this box say? 6.5 by 300. That's what this is. Look at the brass. Weatherby 6.5 by 300 brass. Then you pull it out, and what does this say? This is a Sirocco box. Well, you pull that out. That's not a Sirocco. So then you scratch your head. Well, it came with dies. They must have been reloader. Well, they got their tags on there. That's 142 grain LRAC, which I'm pretty sure that would be a long range AccuBond right there, loaded in this stuff. And you can see the brass isn't quite as pretty as what it might possibly could be. So then you're thinking, well, that's a reload. So I've got a handful of 2, 3, 4 friends that do a bunch of loading, and I would consider ultra uber experts at loading. Ask them, hey, I got this Weatherby, pretty expensive bow lights for this thing. What do you think about the reloads I got with it? Every single one of them said absolutely do not. But I think we're going to use them to sight it in. Couple measures of precaution. Let's turn the camera around and I'm gonna get some of these and I'm gonna measure the overall length. And that's gonna give me some type of assessment of whether this dude was worried about precision or if he was just throwing things together. We got tons of crazy variants. We might just go ahead and side it in with the big money stuff and trash all this, but you hate to trash it, you know, as much as this stuff costs. But let's flip the camera around and I'm gonna measure some of these loaded cartridges, just see what happens. All right, so I'm gonna try to do this where you guys can see it, but I got my calipers over here measured to 1/1000th of an inch. I mean, good news is it is Weatherby brass. It is, they kept it in the Weatherby box. This is how the Weatherby come. But let's just measure some of these for overall length, best that I can. Let me re-zero that. Yeah, we're still pretty close. Try to do them all exactly the same way. So there's a 3.592. I'd say that's that one was the exact same down to the thousandths. 3.591. I'm getting a pretty good sense that they're using some quality equipment and knew what they were doing, but 3.590. So those are so far all within 2/1000ths. 3.591. So there's 4 in a row that are within 1 or 2 thousandths, which gives me a sense of this stuff is pretty half decent. So I'm gonna use this stuff. It's loaded by somebody I don't know, 142 long range Accubons, at least that's what it says on there. Hey, and before I get to slinging it, I gotta put this in there. Make sure if you get some reloads, don't do it. I'm not an expert at loading, but a bunch of my friends are, and they all tell me don't to do this, and I'm gonna do it anyway. So if you get some reloads from somebody, you didn't load it, don't fire them out of anything. All right, now I need my glasses. Now you guys that watch the show have seen me sight stuff in before, so if you want to see a full video on how to use these, go check it out. Type in Hootie Hoo bore sighter. But I put this on the end of the barrel, put it on my plate at 10 yards, and how I sight stuff in is I'm gonna aim at the top dot that you see there, and I want the hit to be at the bottom dot-ish, and we'll make a slight adjustment from there. I got my Banish Backcountry on the end there. That's a 30 cal can, so it'll fit on a 6.5. That's a lightweight can that I've used quite a bit. So here we go. One of those 4 that I measured. See where we're at. Remember, I'm aiming at the top dot, and I want my hit to be real close to the bottom dot. Here we go. And that's clear glass. Woo, son. That kicked a little more than I expected it to. But it's saying that I need to come down just a tad. So, which way's down? Up is that way. So I need to come the other way. All right, now let's send Warren's one more and see if I turned it the right way. Sometimes I get confused. Yeah, it definitely came down pretty near level with what I wanted, but that one and the one before is slightly right. So let me just give it a smidge to the left here. Left to be, it's gonna be that way. And now we should be good enough to at least get on paper at 100 yards. Let's go back, take this same stuff, and we'll test some groups with these. And then we'll also be sighted in to do some testing with some more factory stuff and also some stuff that I'm gonna load up myself here in the future. So we load this up and take it back to the 100-yard bench. All right, here we go back at 100. Being that it's a Weatherby, I'm assuming no drop mag, right? So let's just go ahead and drop 3 down in there and see how we do. Now this way that I do it at 10 yards with the laser and go ahead and fling one. I don't recall that ever not working and getting me on paper at 100. Does it only hold 2 plus 1? Maybe so. Either that or I'm just having troubles today. But there's one. Let's see where this hits. It ought to be good enough to have us on paper at 100. So here we go. Good squeeze. Hey, not bad. What are we? Down 2 inches and right 1 inch. So let's make that adjustment here. It's down, so we need to go the up direction. Which way's up? That way. Clicked it 9 times. And we need about half that for the other direction. It's right, so we need to go left, which I think means click it this way. We gave it 5 clicks in the left and right direction, so saving all this brass. Look at the brass here. I'm gonna inspect all this again before I load it, but I thought that had a crack in it, but it's not a crack. Number 2, see how close we are to the bullseye now. Good squeeze there. We touched the orange, we're still down and right some, aren't we? So let me bring it up 2 clicks, and then I'm gonna bring it left some more. And I won't touch the scope again until I do a group. Let's go ahead and do a group now. Top left target. Actually, let's go bottom left target. Not that that matters to y'all which one, but it helps me to tell the camera for when I'm editing. Bullseye! I think this thing's gonna end up being a ringer based on that. 2 more for this group. Also means the dude that loaded this stuff at least did a half decent job, huh? The guy who pawned this actually watched the video when I picked this thing up and said, hey, that was mine. Maybe he'll see this one. 2 more for this group here. A good squeeze there. We're still within 1 inch. This is a fairly thin barrel. It is a fluted barrel, but I don't want to get real crazy. This is a lot of powder and creates a lot of heat real quick. Good squeeze there. Well, that opened her up, but I'm gonna let it cool. And then we're gonna do a little bit more. What my plan is to be compiling a bunch of this data. So then I have a bunch of data on this rig, what it likes, the powders, the projectiles and all that, to where I am creating my own database of 6.5 by 300. So I'm gonna let this cool and be back. All right, so here we go. I'll let that cool for quite a while. Absolutely room temperature again. So let's do a couple more groups. Like I said, the whole point of this is more data is more better. There's so many variables when it comes to factory stuff. There's the powder, there's the overall length, the jump. There's the primer, there's the brass, all that stuff. And again, I don't claim to be an expert, but more data you have on something like this that you're gonna load, especially some Weatherby cartridges that definitely aren't budget friendly, more data you can compile together, the better. So bottom right target, I'm just gonna do 2 more groups here and edit out the slow parts for y'all. That one jumped to the opposite side, so that one's going to come in to pretty near a 2-inch group. So let's do another group here. And then we'll go measure this and get all the data. Apparently this Vanguard in 6.5 by 300 is a 2+1. Good squeeze there, and that put it in the same hole as that one right before it. So, that's pretty cool, but not all three were in the same hole. Let's go measure those groups. All right, so just measured these groups with the calipers, and here's what we got. So here's where I sighted it in. First one was there, made an adjustment there. Then I went right to this. I labeled it warm because the barrel was already warmed up from those two. And we got a 1.10, a little bit better than I assumed from back there. So not terrible. 1.1, that's, what's a good word? Acceptable in most people's books. Weatherby does have a under 1 guarantee, but not if you bought it at the pawn shop. Who knows how long ago from the original owner. And their guarantee is with Weatherby premium ammo, not with somebody else's reloads. So then I let it cool probably a good 15-20 minutes. It was room temp again. And this is an interesting data point. So with it cool, I got a 1.80. So now we're approaching it being grouping terribly. But then directly after that, up here, I had two in almost the exact same hole, and the entire group of 3 was 0.91, which is interesting because warm here, 1.1, warm here, 0.91. Now this isn't a huge amount of data, but I'm working on compiling a bunch of data on this thing as I go along. So if you're into 6.5 by 300 Weatherby or anything Weatherby, make sure you're subscribed and stay tuned for a bunch more videos. But off of this little bit of data, it would seem that it groups better when it's warm, which is interesting because that's not always the case. It does happen sometimes. I've had it happen before, but it's just interesting. And every single one of these was a good squeeze. I did not jump and squeeze it 2 inches high. But there's the data here, sighting it in with these random / unknown reloads. All right, so there you have it, guys. First trip to the range with this new to me Weatherby Vanguard High Country. And so far we got under an inch, which is promising. Like I said, those were some random reloads that I wanted to use just to get this thing dialed in and not use the expensive Weatherby factory $5 a squeeze to get it sighted in. Typically when I go to the range, what am I going to sight it in? Something new. I'm going to use some random steel case, cheapest bottom of the barrel stuff that I got, which in this case was the reloads. They turned out being okay, didn't they? Before the end of this video, you know what I need for the data? I'm going to send one of these over the chronograph because that's a data point that we need to have. So hold on, let me set up the chronograph before we end the video. All right, so I got the chronograph set up right there. Let me send one of these. These are those 142 grain LR ACs, which I think is long range Accubon, but see what kind of speed we get with this. Don't need all those zoomies for like 2 yards here. Come on, read the speed here. Don't hit the chronograph. Okay, 44. It read as literally 44. I don't know if it'll let me zoom in. Oh, I can't zoom in this way. Hold on, I gotta show you because it's kind of funny. It read as 44, literally 44, which is not the case. If that was the case, we would have been able to see it come out through there. But this isn't my chronograph, I'm borrowing it, so I'm honestly afraid to hit it. With this big old honker of a scope, it's slightly hard to see where you're aiming up this close. So maybe I'll go back, take a couple steps back here, and I'm gonna leave the camera here, but take some steps back. So hopefully I can get a better reading this time, maybe, hopefully. And that one read error. I really want to get a speed to have to compare with this weight projectile, so let me try one more. If this doesn't work, I'm not going to waste my time or your time. And that one read as an error, so I don't know. It's not that cloudy today. That should be reading, but yeah, I'm not going to waste any more time. But hey, like I said, if you're into the Weatherby stuff, or you got a 65x300 and you can give me some tips, definitely make sure you're subscribed and check out some of the videos coming out soon. But stay tuned, more to come on this. Appreciate y'all. Lots of fun videos coming on the way you don't want to miss. See you guys on the next one. Hoo-hoo.